You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Welcome, Sprouts. Today is Monday, October 17th, in the 29th week in Ordinary Time, and also the memorial of St. Ignatius of Antioch.
Well, that's fun to hear.
Yeah.
Hi, Sprouts. We are Jeff Traylor. My name's Jeff Traylor. This is Scott Williams here with me.
Howdy.
We're the co-hosts this week for Catholic Sprouts. We're super excited to be here. Scott and I are here. We are the hosts of a podcast called All Set for Sunday. That's a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be better prepared for Sunday Mass, more for your parents than for you guys. But we're also part of the team at Catholic Concepts, and that's the company behind brands such as States of Faith, Live Liturgically, 4 Marks Printing, and most notably, Sacrilegious.
Yeah.
So, Scott, I'm excited to be here. I don't know about you.
I'm thrilled. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Oh, well, I'm not having you. The kids are having us.
Thanks, kids.
And Sprouts, we are super excited to talk to you guys today about one of our favorite saints. Scott, you want to tell them about him?
St. Therese of Lisieux.
Oh, Therese of Lisieux. Or around here at Sacrilegious, we sometimes call her Therese of Lisieux. You get it? Because the sock goes in a shoe.
I get it.
You guys get it.
But also known as the Little Flower.
Oh, a beautiful little flower. And we are going to tell you guys all about her this week. Every day is going to be different fun things about St. Therese of Lisieux. So I want to start off today. We're just going to talk about where does she come from? Who is this lady?
Yeah. So St. Therese of Lisieux, she was a young Carmelite nun who devoted her life to God. Jeff, what's a Carmelite?
Oh, this is a great question, Scott. Carmelites are one of the oldest religious orders in the world. St. Therese's order, the Carmelites, started way back in the Old Testament with Elijah and Elisha. They motivated people who wanted to live a life of prayer to God to live in the mountains in the Holy Lands around Mount Carmel. And while there, those people started to dedicate their life after Jesus more and more towards Mary, and specifically Our Lady of Mount Carmel. That's the title that they gave to the Blessed Virgin Mary as the patroness of their order. That's a complicated way of saying, you know what? The Carmelites love Mary. They live in community together, oftentimes away from the rest of society, so all of their focus can be on prayer.
And she absolutely wanted to be a part of this order so bad, but she had a really hard time getting in.
I know. No matter how many times she asked, she kept being told no. She kept being told she was too young.
So she was like 15 years old, and she goes to, the person that's in charge of letting people into this order. And
The Carmelite boss.
The Carmelite boss
Sister boss.
says no. And then she comes back and then says no again. And then she said, but you could always go to the bishop if you want. I'm just his delegate. So she goes to the bishop with her father. And
He says, hello, I'm the bishop.
Hello, bishop. But her dad came along too. And her dad was really eager to help her, do this because ultimately that's going to get her closer to God. And she was excited for him. The bishop also says, well, he didn't say no specifically, I don't think. I think he said, I'm going to let you know, I'm going to write you a letter and let you know my decision.
That's a classic bishop move.
Yep. And classic St. Therese said, you know what? I'm going to just go ask the Pope. So
if I get a no from you, I'm going to go to your boss.
Yep. So she goes to the Pope. And guess what? The Pope says no. She said, well, not necessarily no, but he said, if God wills it, it'll happen. So St. Therese goes back, and eventually they let her in.
They do. And she got to live this beautiful life as a Carmelite that we're going to learn more and more about all this week. Such just an impressive story all along her life, from this time that we're talking about here, her time as a child, and how she struggled as a child and was like picked on and bullied sometimes, to finding that God was the answer to so many of her troubles. God was the way that was going to lead her along. And that support from her parents, how amazing. Just seeing parents supporting vocations, just like all of your guys' parents are supporting your love of Christ and your love of the church by letting you listen to these two silly guys talk today.
Silly gooses. Silly geese.
Silly geese.
Jeff, how about a challenge today?
All right, I've got a challenge.
What is
St.
it?
Therese was persistent.
Yes, she was.
She was so persistent. So we're going to be persistent today, kids. Persistent means just continuing to do something, even if you don't want to do it, even if you keep getting told no or you keep finding distractions, to keep doing it.
What should the Sprouts be persistent in?
Maybe they should persistently ask their parents for cookies today until they get them.
That sounds yummy. That's probably not
a good idea. Let's try. I think they should be persistent in doing their chores today.
Okay.
So whatever your chores are, let's make it a goal today that you clean your room or you do something extra around the house for your mom and dad, but you do it without them asking.
Yep.
Even if you don't want to, you do it and you're persistent in getting that done, because sometimes God calls us to challenges.
Yep. And also don't tell them that you did it. Just do it. Just do the chore.
And see if they notice, like the Pope.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Sprouts, parents, at the beginning of the show, we talked about who we are in our work with Catholic concepts, and we want to talk to you a little bit this week about some of our brands. And since, Scott, you started this whole thing by founding Sacrilegious, why don't you tell the Sprouts and their parents about Sacrilegious?
Yeah, so my wife and I founded Sacrilegious, which is a Catholic sock company, which might sound weird off the start because it is a little weird, but it's also a lot of fun. I know. But I worked full-time in Catholic youth ministry for about 10 years. And one thing that I noticed is that people were really looking for fun and unique gifts. And I was also really into socks. And I married the two together. And I said, well, wouldn't it be fun if we were able to celebrate feast days like St. Ignatius of Antioch on a sock instead of National Donut Day or whatever national holiday it was. So that was the beginning of it. And what happened is it allowed young people and old people alike to start talking about their faith in the lives of the saints in unique and fun ways.
So parents, if you're looking for some little socks to put on the little feet to talk about St. Therese and her little way, Sacrilegious is a great way to do that.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.